Hi, this is Harry. Years ago, I worked as a project manager in an IT department for GE Capital, and the IT director asked me to start capturing the decisions in my projects in a decision log. Now, frankly, when I first started doing this, I wasn't entirely sold on the benefit. But the more that I kept those decisions in the log and began to evaluate those decisions, to be able to go back to those decisions, I could see the wisdom. And so I've used a decision log for years now, and I've seen the benefit. So I've put together this short little series on how to plan for your decisions, how to identify and capture those decisions, and how to evaluate your project decisions. And I really hope that you find a lot of value in this series. Enjoy. Welcome to this series on how to actually make and execute better decisions. Our lives are the sum total of all the decisions we've made. Think about it. Financial decisions, health-related decisions, whether or not to marry, whether to have children or not, and where to work. So my goal today is to help you make better decisions, both professionally as well as personally. And here's why. When you make and execute better decisions, you win. Poor decisions can be costly. Let me tell you a little story. I have a friend who is a runner, and he was training for an upcoming half marathon. Now that's 13.1 miles. And his goal was to break a former time of 1 hour and 35 minutes. So the race started. He started his watch to monitor his speed and time. As the race progressed, he pushed himself and he distanced himself from a majority of the pack. There were only about 5 runners in front of him. And at mile 10, the runners in front of him turned down the wrong street, and he followed. Now, about 2 minutes later, the group hit a dead end. So they turn around, they start backtracking. The poor decision cost my friend a lot of time. And once he got back to the other runners, he was much further behind where he had been earlier in the race. And so he exerted a lot of energy attempting to regain his position. And in the last mile, he said, basically, I just gave up. I simply finished the race. Now, he was very disappointed that he was not able to break his record. You know, when we make poor decisions in our projects, there are impacts or there not. And we need to be thinking about what are some of the reasons that cause us to make poor decisions. I mean, think about that just for a moment in your own projects. What are some things that are contributing to poor decisions? And a lot of times it boils down to things like wrong assumptions, or poor requirements, or missed business rules, or poor resource assignments, or misunderstood customer needs. So consider for just a moment how difficult it is just for an individual to make decisions. And I mean, sometimes you would think some of the decisions we face on a daily basis are fairly simple. I mean, you go to a store and you want to just buy some toothpaste. How many choices do you have? And so choices require decisions, don't they? And the number of choices gives us options, but it also can increase our stress. So it's hard enough for one person to make a decision. We add another person, say a husband and wife, and the husband likes the temperature in the house a little warmer and the wife likes it a little cooler. And so the decision process becomes a little more challenging. And then we take it up another level. Let's say we decide to form a project team of 8 people, and for each additional person that we add to the team, things become exponentially more complex. Getting people to agree can be a huge challenge. Maybe you identify with this cartoon. After a day-long meeting, the decision, as usual, is made in the hallway. And so we can spend hours and hours in project meetings trying to make decisions. So what's the solution? The solution is to make and execute better decisions. You say, well, I get that, Harry, but how do we make better decisions? Well, I'm going to give you 3 steps, and I'm going to use the acronym PIE, P-I-E. And the P stands for plan for decisions. The I stands for identify and capture decisions, and the E stands for evaluate decisions. Let's look at each of those in a little more detail. So the first step is to plan decisions. What do I mean by this? Well, I want to encourage you as a project manager to think ahead, to anticipate what are the most significant decisions. So we would ask ourselves, what will be the most important decisions in the project? And oftentimes I speak with the project sponsor about that. I'll have those discussions with the project team and some key stakeholders. And then other decisions. Who will make the decisions, okay? Who will make the decisions? When do those decisions need to be made? How will the decisions be made? I'm going to come back to that one in just a moment. How? Where will you record these decisions? Do you have some type of decision register? And how will you communicate the decisions? So let's talk about that question of how. How do we make decisions? And there are different decision types. Let me talk briefly about 3 that I commonly use. We have the command decisions, we have consultative decisions, and we have consensus decisions. The command decisions occur when a top executive, say the sponsor, makes a decision with little or no input from others. Now, what are the downsides of this type of decision? Yes, that executive oftentimes doesn't have sufficient knowledge of the details. Now, there are benefits to this type of decision process. It's quick, it's definitive. This type of decision is most helpful in crisis situations. Second type of decision is consultative decision, and this decision model involves a decision process where a facilitator, often the project manager, defines a problem, solicits possible solutions from the team discusses the pros and cons of each option, and then the project manager makes a recommendation on behalf of the team to the decision maker, such as the project sponsor. So what are the upsides to this model? Well, we're able to get different perspectives of people at different levels of the organization. What are the downsides? Well, frankly, this takes a whole lot more time than the command decision model. The third decision type that I'd mention is the consensus decision. And this follows the same steps as the consultative model. However, the final decision is made by the team, not the project sponsor. So the benefit of this is because those team members made the decision, they're going to own the decision. They're going to support that decision. They have a vested interest in making sure that it actually works. The downside is, again, this can require a considerable amount of time, and sometimes teams get stuck in analysis paralysis.